So let's talk about European Union here for a second. They absolutely believe, because they've done it to their own countries. I mean, Germany has no industrial base practically at all now. That's insane. I mean, because I have a memory, that's kind of a good thing. In other ways, that's a really bad thing. They are very good at making things. And that's all being dismantled entirely. They actually believe the best thing is to just slowly put this dog down until we can raise up the new thing. The people don't want it, and they know that. Otherwise, they'd be out saying, here's what we're doing. But they're not. They're denying all of it, until it's conspiracy theory, until it's provably not. Those people, though, if they actually believe that, that's so insane, they might just say, you know what? Let's go for a trade war. It'll speed it up, and we'll get what we want. We're not dealing, it's like the Democrats and the Republicans, all the lawfare. That's not legitimate. They don't actually mean those things. Their intent is to slow everything down and stop it and grind it to a halt. That's sabotage. We have the same kind of partners in some countries that are supposedly friendly to us. What gives you confidence that they're not going to do that?
Well, I think that many, if not most of those countries in Europe are going to try.
To stop it
to sabotage. To
it.
participate in the sabotage. Because nothing since Trump was elected in 2016 has gone according to their plan other than, quote unquote, defeating him in 2020.
Yes.
And I know this because of all the work that Heritage does in Europe trying to revitalize conservatism.
Yeah.
And of course, it's our kind of conservatism where people are actually in charge, not the squishy kind of nonsense where you're prioritizing the GDP over the well-being of everyday hardworking people.
Right.
But to your point, I think they're going to try. In fact, there are already signs just 24 hours in after this tariff announcement that the EU is going to do that. But what gives me confidence that we will prevail over that is not just because of the competence of Trump and his administration and their awareness that that's what they're going to do, but also that regular people in the United States and in these European countries have had enough. They may not win every election, but they've won enough. In fact, they won a couple that have been overturned, that it's really deteriorated the power of the EU Brussels regime. This is why it's imperative that President Trump and his administration really get a detailed plan on reciprocal tariffs going, because it's so hard to argue against that, both in substance and in the rhetoric. I think that's the place to land this plane. And I'm going to keep talking about it until we see it happen at Heritage, because this regime that they've announced yesterday, in other words, makes them more vulnerable to the sabotage that the European Union and some other nefarious actors around the world are going to do. Just in terms of the geopolitics of it, I think the administration needs to be just a click more savvy about what they can do to shoot them in their kneecaps, figuratively.
A lot of people don't know that I'm a painter, and I gave up painting because of demoralizing pain in my hands. I was losing hope. If pain keeps you from really living, I urge you to do what I did. Try Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a 100% drug-free supplement developed by doctors. It's safe to take every day, and it has helped me and so many others. You can try their 3-week quick start right now, $19.95 at relieffactor.com.
I think that's one of the things. It's really the only real error I think he has made this time around. Is Canada is the biggest example.
I agree.
You had Trudeau out. You had that over. And I don't know why. I mean, I appreciated the 51st governor. I really did.
No one deserved it more than
no
Trudeau.
one. No, it couldn't have happened to a nicer communist. But we just shot ourselves in the foot. Now we're going to get the other guy who was, what's his name?
Carney, and he's a product
Carney.
of the EU. And look, as much as we disagree with him, the guy is no dummy.
Yeah.
He is
Bank
a
of
savvy
England,
snake.
Bad. And it's the same Kamala Harris thing. Nobody really voted for him. Nobody voted for him.
There's a trend here.
Yeah, there is a trend. But we can't do that. Tell me about Mexico and Canada on this. Where do you think we're going with that?
I agree with you on how the politics of this has cut in Canada, and I think it was a tactical error. I thought it was funny at first,
Yeah,
but
it was.
Other media types said, Kevin, I'm going to force you to say something you have a difference of opinion with President Trump, and it's always been the Canada thing.
Yeah.
Because it would be nice to have Pierre Poilievre as the Prime Minister
Sure
of
would.
Canada. Interestingly, I never thought I would say this about any socialist, especially the socialist president of Mexico. She understands Trump, and she's been playing ball. So she already, to the extent she can, being governed by the cartels, has helped with some of the southern border issues, some of the fentanyl trafficking. I'm not suggesting she's perfect, but she recognized politically there was a win there for her country and for her. But the problem with the tariffs is that it actually empowers her to have more leverage. And that's why if you're emphasizing fairness and reciprocity, we're on much stronger political ground where you can isolate those countries, whether it be Mexico or Canada or the Netherlands, who don't want to play ball. We at Heritage see this plain as day. So sometimes we're wrong about things. Hopefully we have the humility to always say that. On this, I just see it so clearly that if the president can stick to that, he actually builds stronger friendships with countries around the world.
100%.
And you eliminate the possibility of the sabotage that the EU wants to lead.
I just had Liz Truss sitting there last week.
She knows this story.
Yes, she does. She said England is a failed state. The Prime Minister, former Prime Minister, said my country is a failed state.
And not just any country.
Yeah, England.
The single most important country, ironically, for why we have the American Republic. Think about what that means for the Western civilization. But there's a lesson there. With all due respect to the former prime minister, I love her, as you know. We have her at Heritage often. She was right and moved too fast. Not because moving fast was the wrong policy call. It was the wrong political call. And there's a lesson in how this tariff rollout has happened this week from the Trump administration. It's too much, too soon, without tilling the soil politically, economically, along with all of these other changes that need to happen, the tax cuts, the deregulation, DOGE, and so on, to be able to continue to close the sale with the American people, which Trump is the master of.
Tell me about Pam Bondi. I met her. I don't know her. She's one of the few in the administration I just don't know. I have been so underwhelmed with the Justice Department. I really expected to see the Justice Department at least start turning their own people in and saying, you broke the law, you're going to jail. I mean, what we found out about the FBI and the intelligence community just yesterday about the Hunter Biden laptop stuff, we now have all of the proof. We have all of the transcripts on it. When are we going to start seeing people go to jail?
It's a fair question, and I agree with wanting to see people be in jail. And I would have thought that we would have seen that by now.
Me too.
And we were disappointed at Heritage that all of the fanfare over the Epstein files sort of landed like a lead balloon. And I'm not quite sure why that happened, but I'll answer your question directly about the Attorney General herself. I think she's awesome. And in fact, I saw her earlier this week at the swearing-in ceremony of the number 3 of the Department of Justice, and that is the point that I want to make. She's been understaffed. The pace of getting these appointments confirmed has been very slow. It's always slow. It's particularly slow. And she's understaffed at a time that the DOJ, more than any other time in American history, must be upended. And I gather,
Upended.
Informed speculation here, but mostly speculation, she's waiting to get the full team in place to be able to do that. Her track record would suggest, and she herself, great woman of virtue, would suggest that it's going to happen. But I thought it might have happened by now.
Yeah. Okay. I just don't know her.
I still have confidence in her,
Yeah,
but
good,
I understand
good,
why
good.
you're asking the question.
Good. What have you been most impressed with and least impressed with? I guess Canada, you're going to say, but
yeah, least impressed the Canada thing, but it's a quibble. I mean, it really is relatively minor in the big scheme of things. Most impressed with, after the quality of people in the cabinet, the pace of change. And that's why at Heritage, we're giving the president some grace on an announcement that's a little bit different than what we thought. It's going to be okay. And they know that.
Been breathtaking.
It has been. And then after that, the vice president already had very high expectations. But J.D. Vance is a generational thinker. He's a visionary. Even people who disagree with him or don't quite know him well yet when they get the opportunity to spend some time with him or really think about what he's saying, he's doing the kind of forward-looking thinking that you specialize in, you have in your career. He's the kind of guy bringing in a lot of these, not necessarily doctrinaire conservative voices, but people who love America, to be able to build the America of 2040 and 2050 rather than fight the political battles of 1985.
How is he on the, because I hear people say one of two things on conservatives, one of two things. You know, he's in with all the Silicon Valley people. And the Silicon Valley people, they don't love America. I hear that. Or I hear he's fantastic. How is he on the founding documents? How is he on what our true root is?
I think he has a phenomenal understanding. And it would be good to get great Professor Beck to do an interview with him. I will say this on the Silicon thing. I know why people ask that. I had that question too years ago. But it would be like me. Well, Kevin was a professor, went to University of Texas, trained by a bunch of libs. How can we trust him? Maybe people thought or think that. And most people would say that's not, in fact, something to be worried about. And so I know J.D. Vance personally and have seen him in action politically. He was at Heritage a few days ago. And color me biased, because I think there's a man of tremendous virtue. He loves this country. He knows the founding documents. He maps to them rhetorically, but also to the specific question about Silicon Valley. A lot of those guys and gals are really with us more than we might recognize. And I'm a latecomer to realizing that, and I tell them that. But we ought to have a certain wariness about the whole group, because if they get inside the administration, like the worst ones, get inside the administration, this is what Zuckerberg has been trying to do. We ought not think that they're our friends.
They're not our friends. And you know what? You know, I don't have anything against Jeff Bezos, but he's so hepped up on steroids now, and he's like, you know, it's a little frightening. And some of the other people are not people I would necessarily trust, but there are good people that are in the administration. The ones that I worry about are the ones around the administration that you see. But
it's always the hangers-on, you know, whether it's those folks or the hangers-on in Washington around members of the Senate.